An olumo maka abedo kwen lumpi mwaka par South Sudan. Gimiyo an chalo dako bot lacho ma mwaka mere 55. Ento an onong atieki mwaka par achiel. Lacho man onywara mada. Dok bene obedo kayela pien pe aromo nongo yia. Chunye pe obedo yomi koma. Lachen madong anongo yia pe gubedo kikicha koma. Gudia tek mechito kalweny kwedgi ilum. Alweny ilum pidwe abungwen ducho kia. Ikare madong anywal atamo ni mena dui magiluogi no lum. Dong gubi mia kare me yweyo ma pe dong abichito kalweny kwedgi. Ento gudia michito kalweny kunonga bielo latin ma anywalo ni ingeya. Kimuduku nonga maki chinga. Kiyech micham nonga aye iwuya. Chamu kenne nonga tingo latin atinga. Kong doni tam peko ma awoke ye kareman. Kibene nino mukenne kimako dano mapol. Gineko gi nyimwa nonga latin mera bene neno. Chawa mukenne nonga watika tedo. Kong tam ni meno latin mera oneno jami ducho maracho. Inge mwakario mukato ni alui wako. Chi ginongo wa ikabedo mo magichwalo wa itown megulu. Latin mera bedo kiluoro adada pien ikarema wabede lum. Ung'iyo kikwa mpa dui keken. Dok bene geno kwa kilok pa dui keken. Adui obedo katito wa ka wadok Uganda gibineko wan wako kikwi. Dok bene kitma latin mera ginywala ilum ke adui ni gibineko ne wako.
We are in northern Uganda in the Acholi region, shocked and devastated by the civil war between the Lord Resistance Army and the government. The history of war, not only between rebels, but against civilians. What is in slangs a dirty war? Civilians were the rebels' principal target, using the terror as a bargaining tool to force them release land and gain power. The government reacted to this attack on the civilians quickly, grouping them into internal displaced people's camps in order to defend them from the rebels' attack. It's worth nothing. It was also to have a free space for the counter-offensive. It was a dramatic situation. Hundreds of thousands of people were forced to leave their homes and their belongings, to be regrouped in camps lacking most basic services. Camps were held. Here in Kalongo, we had up to 46,000 displaced in a square mile. We can imagine the promiscuity problem, the congestion, the absence of the minimum requirements to survive, despite the efforts of the World Food Program and other international organizations. In December 2005, the Italian Corporation started a tour in 250 camps all over the region, meeting different situations around 270 mothers. We did this to understand the conditions in which they lived and their major problems. The main problem was the loss of cultural identity and code of conduct that always guided the daily Acholi livelihood. For survival, no one hesitated to resort to whatever means to have food to feed the family. With this, I intend to say that the sale of the girl child for sex was a practice that allowed many families to survive. This is what they call the early marriage for girls, and they are told you must marry. A girl has to actually go and find money to take home. As we know, during the war, more than 20,000 children were abducted in the camps by rebels after attacks and massacres, and consequently taken to the jungle for several reasons. Firstly, to turn them into soldiers. Secondly, to carry food and household goods. Then thirdly, for sexual abuse. The girls were used to meet the needs of rebels. During imprisonment, atrocities were frequent at the hands of the same girls, obviously with a gun pointed at them. Tremendous violence indeed, and we have testimonies of girls who were forced to kill their parents. Many managed to escape, especially during the war, returning to Uganda, and as well we shall see later some were welcomed into our centers. Women have reported the same situation in areas hundreds of kilometers away. The abuse of children and women were present and spread everywhere. We have recorded all this in a document entitled Impunity and Silence. This is a report of our findings, which include letters of the girls on the same issue. The report of these women inspired the emergency initiative of the Italian Corporation, which was launched in 2005 and is still ongoing. From these interviews and women's requests, what emerged very clearly is that an emergency intervention. The priority will be to identify the girls facing a greater social risk, orphans and girls returned from captivity, carrying rebel children, and therefore poorly preserved, and place them in institutions and boarding schools, away from camps where they came from. The priority of this intervention was not so much putting the children in schools for education purposes, but for protection. In 2002-2003, the number of camps throughout the Acholi region was about 250 scattered throughout various districts. Now the number of the IDPs has decreased dramatically, like this one in Kalongo. Here we have gone from 46,000 displaced to about 3,500 people today. Others are returning to areas where they came from through countless difficulties, trying to resume a normal life.